art doesn't say how it looks. So when people say, oh, this doesn't look, this is shit. I said, no art is shitty because art does not want anything else but to be created.
Hello and welcome to Self Talk. I'm your host, Rachel Astarte. Today, my guest is Michaell Magrutsche. He is an Austrian, Californian, multidisciplinary artist, creativity awareness educator, speaker, and author. He works on raising the awareness of our limitless human potential and comprehending wisdom. Michaell is also an advocate for helping understand neurodiversity. Michaell, welcome to Self Talk.
Thank you, Rachel. Good to see you.
And I want to dive right in. We have a lot to discuss today. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you came to do what you do. What's the backstory about your work?
Mm-hmm. So I was born in Vienna, Austria. I was a sick child, had allergies and eczema and everything you could have. And then I got into school when I was 7. And then I found out I can't fit in because it was dysgraphia. I had dysgraphia and it was neurodiverse. I had dyslexia, extreme, I still have. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't fit into a system. So what a lot of neurodiverse people do, they have to hone their way. And now I see it was a blessing, but it took me 50 years to see that. Mm-hmm. They have to communicate and interact with humans, not with systems. So on a human level, I never had a problem. I was never bullied. So all this stuff, all the issues that everybody else has, I never had. Mm. But and the only thing that actually made me survive was art. Listening first to art and viewing art, and then becoming art creation. And art creation actually gave me all my self-confidence, all my self-awareness, because when you create something, I can say, your podcast is the absolute best podcast in the whole world, or it is the absolute worst podcast of the world. But one thing I can't take away from you: you created it. See, and that's where the real, the experiential knowledge comes in. Because when you burn yourself on a stove, you can have parents tell you why a stove is hot and why that. Until you burn yourself, right? You never forget that. You don't need 3 steps. You don't need to read a book while you're not touching the stove. Mm-hmm. That's basically how the stove was for me systems. Mm-hmm. And it's funny that it brings me to this day to say what is human relevant and what is system relevant. It's still a big issue in my life. Yep.
Yeah. So when you say systems, I mean, we have spoken, and I know what it means as a therapist. I know what a system is, and there are many, many of them. Yeah. When you think of systems, what are you referring to?
Man-made systems. So nature system isn't a system, it's nature. Right. So man-made system, religion, businesses, countries, anything that's man-made, everything.
Right. Like the education system.
Education system. I mean, literally everything that we created so the tribe can grow.
Yes.
Because basically in the tribe, we are good, because that's why 150 is the perfect tribe, number, because it's actually balanced, but when it grows, we need systems. But I say, to give your listeners a little feeling. So you and I want to tend to a garden, right? Mm-hmm. No problem. Sometimes we meet, sometimes we don't. Everything is perfectly. Right. Now, 150 of my relatives and 150 of yours want to be also in the garden because we say it's such a great experience, and the experience is gone because and by systemizing that experience of tending to the garden, you need the scheduling, you need maintenance, you need and so it becomes too hard to even be in that garden, and that's what we lost with all the systems. It is not worth anymore to make money, basically. That's what people find out now. I mean, it's, money runs the whole systems. Mm-hmm. But people say, I mean, this is what artists did forever. 99% of artists, 97% are on the poverty level. They exist on the poverty level. And I was thinking, oh, it was the system's fault, but it wasn't. It was just artists can't go. It's not worth for them to be so distraught. And the most hypersensitive and neurodiverse people are in the arts. Mm-hmm. So they can't function even in the systems. It's not their fault. But see, then you get the system definition of starving artists, and it's a self-fulfilling downward spiral in the whole, just to see human relevant versus system relevant.
Right. And I'm also seeing a parallel between being neurodivergent and just being creative, which also separates you from perhaps, shall we say, typical ways of thinking or priorities in our life. So you've got like a double whammy going on where it's very difficult to fit in to a system that is not designed to accommodate you.
Yep.
Is that fair to say?
Yes, and you're 100% right. The problem is in nature, and this is another thing, another layer. In nature, your existence is the proof that you're worthy. Nature makes no mistakes, right?
Right. That's
so
right.
when I talk to people that are have no self-esteem or whatever, say you gotta hold on to that truth that is the highest truth. That when your existence is the proof that there's a reason why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
So then the ant doesn't want to be the elephant doesn't want to be the ant,
Right.
And they just do their job. It's not about the elephant is better than the ant or the ant is better than the elephant. It's not about that either. But systemically, we have to create a system where through our adaptability, we can integrate. So I call 3 superpowers that I found is like creativity is number 1, creating art the highest because it's not neutered. The creativity is not neutered to creating an iPhone or creating a sneaker. It's just open creativity. I'm standing in front of a canvas or a silence. I sing, I paint.
Mm-hmm.
For example, or I play a game, a play or something. So those things are how you is creativity is number 1. Number 2, what we're doing now, actually, people can be aware. So you get aware, I get aware. We both adapt to each other. And in that, we expand human potential.
Yes.
We're not just affirming that you are a psychiatrist or psychologist and I am a coach or an artist or a speaker. We're not affirming that. It's irrelevant because there's 2 humans interacting. And by that interaction, because it's not a systemic interaction where I say, I'm Republican, you were Democrat, or vice versa. It's not I'm right and you are wrong. Mm-hmm. The context is not systemically. It's not like, I need to win, I need to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And systems are all about winning and losing. So you don't want to, but I think it's tremendously powerful.
Yeah.
Just to be aware of that.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no steps. It's just being aware of it.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just talking about this yesterday. Yeah. Awareness is the thing. It's the thing.
One thing.
That's all, it's the healer. It's the, you don't need anything else but that. Beautiful. Yeah. I want to read for the listeners a quote from your website, if I could.
Yeah, no problem.
I found this very moving. And so I'd like to ask you a little bit about it. So Michaell says on his website, my main goal in life is to find more of myself. This is what I apply in every part of my life. My artistic explorations help me to unveil more of self-awareness. I found creating art is the most effective tool to achieve this for all humans. That's really profound. But I really just got sucked into that first sentence. My main goal in life is to find more of myself. Let's start with talking about that for a second. Can you help us to understand what you mean by that?
So through my growing up, what I just said, I was always trying to, because we are adaptable, so we adapt to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when the system is systemic and system dynamics, and I wanted to get in, I wanted to apply, and I could not fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So what that gave me, and then when I reaped the fruit of my focusing on myself versus on being a part of, which is also, it's also a dichotomy, because DNA driven to be inclusive.
Right.
It's like, from 14 on, you're inclusive to procreate, and then it goes off when you're 28.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, 16-year girls, that they want to be pregnant, not because they choose to be.
Yes.
They're just DNA driven. They're
driven. They're driven for that. Yeah.
Yeah, unconscious. And we are driven till the last breath. We're driven to inclusion.
Right.
So you were a puzzle piece yourself. So what I ascertained or aware became, we are a puzzle piece. Everybody, and with the nature, our existence is proof that we are worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to find yourself how you fit into humanity, not systems.
Right.
So what is my point? Because the bag on Fifth Avenue is exactly valuable, and that everybody looks down there or goes on the other side or doesn't, or talks him or whatever, that he influences. The sad thing is he's unaware that he influences all these system navigators that walk the Fifth Avenue. And the walkers are also in, because they feel the impact. They don't want to talk to him. They don't want to look at him or whatever. But they realize consciously or subconsciously, I can end up like this. Because systems is not humanity. And systems drop you. They promise and drop you. I mean, look at our retirement thing. Look at everything.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It just drop. And it's not the systems are bad. It's just we can't. It's like saying, we should just talk instead of Zoom. We should talk on a string with two bucks. It's like, it's not possible.
Yeah.
I cannot run a string around the world,
Right.
And so this is what systems do. And they're extremely limited. Mm-hmm. They were good at every intent of a system is a good one, but the end, it's collapsing. It doesn't. Yeah. You have to look at the limitation of a static system.
Right. And that brings to mind the idea of community, right? Yeah. So which would you say that community is separate from system?
Society is a system, right? Because there's norms and rules. Where there's rules and regulations, it's a system, right? It's a guidepost. I'm not taking the rules as absolutes. That's also misunderstood. Mm-hmm. Rules and regulations are guidance systems so that limitless individual humans, 8 billion humans that have a separate DNA and separate fingerprints, can actually work together in harmony in a huge group, more than 150. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's our. I think when you just compartmentalize human dynamics and system dynamics, and you can see the two, and you need to give the priority to humans, because systems are irrelevant without humans.
Right.
And when you get that, your life gets 50% easier, 100%. I mean, I've seen it with friends of mine. They just, the moment they get that, the moment that awareness comes in, they can compartmentalize. This is not so important. My kid is sick. I cannot feel guilty not going to work because my kid is sick.
Right.
I must not. But we also need to literally get aware that we create systems that actually are sustainable, and they're actually in interaction with humans and.
Yeah. Is your goal to change what we see as a system?
Yeah. My goal is awareness educator. I'm making people aware. Mm-hmm. And there's no steps or anything. I just say, look at this. We're, and then, but it's all over. That it's like you, me. It's all over coming through. We just the vessels of that consciousness pouring in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Introvert. It's not like, oh my God, I invented systems and human dynamic. No, I'm just observing, and I came to that with art, because art is all focused on the product. It's not on the creation, but what the valuable thing is the creation.
Yes. The process.
It's always the journey. It's always the journey. But it's just a vernacular to say it's the journey. But what you get in creation of art, of an art piece, is instant feedback. Like even with your podcast, you get instant feedback what works, and you tweak it and you communicate with your non-conscious self. You said, okay, why did this not work? What can I do better? Why can I? Oh, Michaell said something. I can implement that,
Right.
And so nobody can take that away from you, because basically you make something physical is creation. And that's the essence of everything,
Yeah, thank you. Because I was going to transition us into art and creating art, and so many different kinds of art are out there for people to create. How does art or creativity in general, how is that an integral part of revealing who you are? Hi, it's Rachel here. If you'd like to dive deeper into your own self-development, but you're looking for an alternative to traditional talk therapy, I think you'll love the Foundation of Self Immersion program. For a full year, you'll get dynamic coursework you can complete on your own time, plus weekly coaching calls and monthly one-on-one sessions with me for personal support. Visit foundationofself.com and click on the events page for more information. That's foundationofself.com. Now, back to the episode.
Because it reveals art creation, reveals the blueprint of humanity. Because look at art culture, art society. Now it's getting more systemic, but before, they don't care about race, gender. Hey, if you are a great actress, it doesn't matter if you're an actress or an actor. If you're transsexual, it doesn't matter. If you're good, you're good. It's always about the product. It's about the team, the inclusion, and getting with that thing a product. But the product is secondary. It's all, like I say, the difference in a symphonic orchestra and in a CEO of a huge company is the CEO has no clue that the guy that fixes the shoes on the bottom, how he is. If he doesn't produce the system requirements, he gets exchanged. So he becomes inanimate, an object, and he will be just exchanged. And in a theater, if you have the first violinist and you have the best conductor, if the oboist doesn't work, the whole thing is, everybody will be distraught. Everything is done. So you are interdependent on each other without control. You just like, the conductor can 100 times say, I'm going to throw you out if you do that again, but it doesn't work. You have to work with them, and that's why I think art creation reveals the blueprint of humanity, of how we could function the most efficient. I think there's nothing and Rick Rubin, I don't know if you know him. He's the biggest producer that ever was, and he has written a book, the creativity. It just came out, and I always forget it. The creative way, a thing of being, creativity, whatever. Basically, look it up. It is the Bible of that. He kind of, I separate systems as the system definition of art and art creation. And Rick basically goes deeper into the blueprint of what creativity does and he exposes that blueprint.
Okay. So if I understand, the creative process is revealing our blueprint, our internal.
Yeah, how we optimal function over generations.
Right. Is that blueprint unique to each individual?
Yeah, it because the only thing that art does is allows you to be individual.
Mm-hmm.
It is that we can, as me, an individual, like what we're doing right now. I'm an individual, you an individual. I'm not trying to manipulate you. You don't try to manipulate me.
Right.
So we are actually creating art right now because we are not trying to, we're trying to get the best product that we can in the moment. We're not worried about, oh, let me undress to get more ratings, or let me do, there's no secondary game.
So that would work. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I get it now. And I think you say art and creativity is a human superpower.
Yeah.
And is that what you mean when you say that immense power of the individual to create?
That's
the way I've seen it, right? So I grew up in the performing arts, and I was an actor, and I'm still a writer. And so that creative process really is a way to tap into the eternal that is in all of us, right?
This is his name. This is the book, the book name for Rick Rubin. The Creative Act, A Way of Being.
The Creative Act.
It all.
Okay.
It's literally, it's like the Bible. You have to read it or listen to it over and over. Mm-hmm. But it is really on a high level. So for me, it was not a problem. But I think a lot of problem have a hard time to relate to it, because I've seen him discussing the book.
Okay.
And people have a hard time wrapping their head. But I do this for so long, since I'm a little kid, I do art. So I have a lot of experience with art too. So, and that's why I came to separating too.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you for that, because then that's going to be helpful for those who want to check the book out. So do you find, and speaking of communities and systems versus the self, the individual self, and that deep investigation that we do internally when we create, is there room in a society or in a community for the artist who works best in solitude?
The artist's solitude working is one part that to get rid of the noise, right? But there's always a room. In art, there is no, that's why I'm saying it's a blueprint. Art doesn't say how it looks. So when people say, oh, this doesn't look, this is shit, I said, no, art is shitty, because art does not want anything else but to be created. It hasn't said, I need to have 100,000 listeners and buyers or whatever. Right. Nobody would do art, because it's only 1% that, or 3%, 1 to 3% that actually make it well with art. Mm-hmm. Nobody would do art ever, would have never done ever art if it was just about being successful. Right. If you tell any job, if you say, okay, be a law professor, or they'll go into law, but 3% are successful. Do you think anybody would do any job when only 3%, 1 to 3% is successful? No. But people do art for some reason. That's a magic already in that. Just look at that. Humans tend to flock to art, and then the system says, oh, because it's a hobby. It's not a hobby. No. Selling is the hobby, because it's not given that you're gonna sell your art. Right. It's the creation is the seriousness. It's not the. It's not the. And that's where you milk them. If you milk the moment, you get so much value out of it. Right.
So it's a personal thing, but it also contributes to the larger, to the way that I see it. It's communication.
Yeah,
all totally art is communication and connection between other people. Yeah. So basic question. So let's say people are working with you, but they say, I am not at all artistically inclined.
System defined, system conditioned, because the system says the product is art. And if the product doesn't look to the system, see how I use system and human relevance in this?
Yeah.
So the system says, this doesn't look like art. And you're not an artist. So when I was 30, till I 30, I got that I'm an artist. Because I looked at all my resumes. I had to do real resumes. And so, oh my God, everything was that. I don't need to. First of all, it saved my life. Then this is all I did. I don't need society to tell me I'm a famous artist to be an artist.
Right.
And what the saddest thing is, when I talk to famous artists, they still feel uncomfortable. Many to say I'm an artist. So it's just, that's the system conditioning. It's the system deems you an artist, and when you're not an artist, the moment you're not an artist, Woody Allen, when he had the kid stuff, he was all of a sudden not an artist. He was that perpetrator, and it's every human is an artist. It's like they say, you and I should run a marathon tomorrow. I couldn't, but we can train to get to a marathon. We have that muscle to be able to do that.
Yes.
And the same is with creativity. And you create all the time. If you sort out, the dinner table, if you, cook something, it's always creation. It's always creation. If you fix something, if you put a Scotch tape on something, tape on, fix something and make it nice or whatever. Every time you rearrange or think, you're creative.
Right. So I think that's an important point, is that we need to expand our definition of art and creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah. To what it's almost like meditation. We talk about there's meditation where you're sitting on your zafu cushion and you have your candles and your spine is straight. But there's also the meditation washing the dishes. There's also a meditation in taking a walk or, grooming your cat, it's what we approach. And that's the awareness part, right?
Yeah.
That's I'm creating now. And what I do as a human being is a creative act, whatever it might be. And that seems to be imbued with source energy, the creative. Okay.
In the moment, you're in the moment, you're leaning into the moment. Meditation, I define meditation as leaning into the moment, meaning you're not out.
Yes.
Because I can put headphones on and run a meditation, I'm completely out, which still works, but it's not that. But you can be here and at the same time leaning into the moment, which we do right now. I mean, I'm leaning very much, I'm milking the moment,
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what conversation really is. It's this kind of, and you're right. We're creating right now as we talk. Beautiful. There was one other question, which is, do you work with groups, individuals, both?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody. Huge groups, small groups, people, individuals.
Yeah. So, and is it practical, or is it a little bit of talking, a little bit of working? I mean, how
everything is different. Everything is unique. That's why I'm saying. I mean, I understand. There's no scheduling. I did 160 interviews worldwide in the last year, and every interview is different. I say certain things, like with the ant and the elephant, the same, because they're good metaphors. But I literally take every moment as a new thing, and I trust that in that moment. So that's why my own podcast is the 30 seconds. Number one, I can't do them because I'm neurodiverse. It would take me 3 times as much as you, but I have only a quote because I believe the quote is enough to seed you, and I see myself as a seeder. To seed you, that you, if you resonate with that seed, that you allow it to grow creatively in your own way, which helps the whole puzzle of human potential.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So I give you a seed, and you said, it's an ugly seed, throw it away. It's a great seed. Well, there's something interesting about that seed. Or I put the seed away, and then you take the seed again and then look, and then you see, and then say, oh, I resonate with that. I have the same thing. Let me express what I have to do,
Yeah.
This is actually, I think, how humans function, but I function consciously about that.
Yeah. So give us an example of what are those seeds? What would be a seed? Putting you on the spot.
Excuse me. If I say, okay, art is the, I'm just paraphrasing now. I wrote it nicely, but art is the only thing that gives you, next to sex, could be, but art gives you the only thing that allows you to experience heaven on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's very generic. It's very general. But, so many people talking about heaven and heaven on earth and whatever, but nothing like what else. Creativity gives you that.
Right.
If your heaven on earth is a good food, a meal,
yeah,
you say, oh my God, Rachel made this unbelievable feast. It was so simple. It was 3 ingredients, but I felt like a king. That's heaven on earth.
Yes.
I walked into this room and saw this painting. And you don't have that. You just don't have, or you have an extreme, but we are so disturbed as humans that we hardly have that experience when you meet somebody, It can happen and it will happen. Obviously, it's not possible, but when you see a piece of art, you look at it, I looked at the painting, well, I saw that movie. I mean, how many kids art saved their lives? I mean, they say now, because of systemic Instagram and Facebook,
right?
That 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5 kids want to kill themselves.
Right.
But when you go, in our times, we went to a movie, we listened to a song, and it literally saved our life because what it unconsciously says is we are okay.
Right.
We resonate to something.
Right.
So we are interconnected. So this is all unconscious. We are interconnected with the whole.
Yes. Yep.
By the way, I never got into this with other people. We chose, like, I'm just, one of my talents is I plug into our mastermind. And all of a sudden, I'm just a loudspeaker. So beautiful. I'm not taking responsibility for saying that and say it's all mine. I want the listeners to see this is you and me.
This is creating. We are doing this. I was going to say how when we talk about creativity and we talk about art, and you were talking about cooking and sex and all the, I don't think that they're different. I think that sex is a creative act, it could be a procreative act, but even when you're not trying to, propagate the species, itself can be a creative act. Cooking, flower arranging, whatever it is. I said cat grooming. Sure, that's an art. Why not? The way that I organize my pens on my desk, because I love that. So I love this idea because for those like myself, and I am including myself, I'm exposing myself a bit. I don't, like, I have beautiful paintings and artwork in my head that I cannot, it's the way my brain works. I cannot translate that into reality. So I see a painting, but I'm not able to put it on a canvas. And it's like having your mouth sewn up and not being able to speak. It's a really frustrating thing. So, but what I'm hearing from you is that doesn't mean necessarily that creativity is lost or gone, or it's just that we need to expand how we express.
It pushes you into, so in your case, when you cannot, I'm dysgraphic. So if you write something legible 5 years ago, I can read it. But if I write something an hour ago, I cannot, my brain does not resonate with what I wrote. So it loses context.
Interesting.
So the pictures that you have, so I had to express me like this, so I cannot do representational work. So, a dog or whatever. I was bad in art, and art is all I did, but I also failed in English, so, that's systemic. And that's always, and that brought me to the now. Yeah. So what I think you cannot transfer it, or you have an inability to transfer your imagination into the physical, do it with a different medium. Yeah. With a word, a sound, song, that helps.
And abstract.
It forces you to express it in a different way.
Yes.
And in that way, it could be even more than you imagine.
Yes, I like that.
You know what I mean? So if you go abstract, don't go and see the form needs to be the same form. I said, how can I expel that that my emotion? I go and use my hands. I use everything. So I want to express this to you. I want to. I have this imagination, this feeling, and sometimes that feeling isn't complete. So you imagine something. I can't put it on the. And this is how our whole world works. Businesses should be an expansion of themselves, and businesses are not. 90% of businesses are not an expansion of yourself. And therefore, again, against humanity, because we need to expand ourselves and then find in that expansion our puzzle piece to get together.
Yeah, beautiful.
Don't be frustrated. Don't be frustrated about not being able to make it physical, because that's the hardest thing. That's why.
Yeah, it had bothered me. I mean, it reminds me of so I'm a huge fan of Mozart, and I've studied his work since I was 10 years old. And it reminds me of Salieri, right? Salieri was a contemporary composer who wanted so much to be like Mozart and was frustrated because he couldn't create. He created beautiful music in his own right. I've listened to it. It's lovely, but he wanted, that Mozartian kind of deliciousness, and he couldn't do it. It was very frustrating. And I sort of liken that, like, I have these beautiful pieces of art in my mind that I'm not able to translate. So I like what you're saying. I love doing abstract art. That's fun for me. But as you said, representational art is very difficult. So as we close this episode, and I do hope you'll come back, because there's so much more to talk about.
Anytime.
What is one message you would like to leave with the listeners?
So when they ask me, what is my word, what I do, what is my favorite word or so, I say awareness. And my message is to listeners is, if you want your life to become at least 50% easier, compartmentalized, be aware of, rewatch this episode, but be aware of that we are part of nature, that humanity is a part of nature. We're still a species of nature. Nature is never wrong. It lives for millions of years. It always adapts. It always balances. It always harmonizes. So balance, harmony is one of the major things. And humans created systems, which is an unbelievable achievement. Look we created New York, we created states, we created everything on this earth. We created, other than nature. But it is limited. These systems are very limited, and they are secondary, because without humans, there's no systems. We created them. We are the gods of systems. So if you just get that, your life is going to get easier. And then change the systems to be more human adapt, not to have more systems. Like, for example, you have racism, now you get Black Lives Matter, or political correctness. This is a real important thing. Systemic human problems cannot be cured by systemic solutions. This is essential. If a system creates a problem, for example, like racism or gender, gender is a system creation. It's not a human creation. You're human. You're just a sub in the subcategory. You're female, I'm male, but you are human number one, and you are also a different race. That's also, if a race is a different thing, you are also a different race. But those are all systemic. That are systemic conditioning. We are all humans. And because the zebra doesn't care if the giraffe does something else,
Right. Yeah. I mean, we are in a very difficult time where,
we can't fix it.
Yeah.
We can't fix it. We can't fix the system created problems, human problems, with system solutions.
Yeah. So that's, well, we'll have to have you back to talk about that next time. Yeah. So how can listeners find you, Michaell? What's your website?
I have one hub, michaellm.com, Michaell with 2 L's, m.com, michaellm.com, and there's everything. And then you can listen to my podcasts and get my books there if you want, or whatever. Just listen to my podcast at 20 seconds, because it takes you a day to listen to all my 130 episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do that. I would do once a day, once a week, listen to one episode and just let that percolate.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay,
Yep.
Beautiful. Michaell Magrutsche, thank you so much for being on Self Talk today.
Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate it.
Hi, this is Rachel Astarte from the Self Talk podcast. I'd love for you to send me your emails with questions or stories about yourself. What are you looking for? What are your questions? What are you grappling with in your own personal life that has to do with your identity, with yourself, with your very existence? These are the things that we're going to talk about during the podcast. And go ahead. It's all right. Get deep. I can handle it. So send them to Rachel@selftalkpodcast.com. And I'll see you on the next episode.